Well, shortly after the election, that argument got highly dispelled and put on display by accident when Mr. Elon Musk and Vivek, remember him? He's like MIA right now, supposedly running for governor of Ohio. But actually, after he got into the spat with the MAGA crowd over saying the reason that they needed HB1 visas was because for high-tech positions, high medical and research positions, we needed to import the talent because the talent pool inside of the United States, and that wasn't his exact words, he basically said we were too slow, wasn't great enough to be able to fulfill those positions with inside the state. What was the MAGA argument to that? Get lost, Vivek. Get lost. We don't care about qualifications now that we're supposed to be on the short end of the stick of the qualifications. We don't care about it anymore. It's just supposed to be higher America. But when it was the argument against DEI, it was all about qualification. Okay. So that got dispelled with the spat with Vivek and Elon, but some kind of way it got glossed over. Well, now it's back on display now with this cabinet because we have several members that are not qualified for these positions. And we could have said they weren't qualified back in January, but now we have actual proof that these people aren't qualified. So let's circle back to Miss McMahon. I wasn't on her because she misspoke. She said A1 instead of AI. That's just funny, but stuff like that happens. Like I say, I've done it. You may have done it watching this video at work or whatever, whatnot. Here's the thing that is the real issue that shows why Mrs. McMahon isn't qualified. Let's go here. Let's check this out right quick. I'm not going to read all of this article. I just want to read some important parts about it. But let's start with the title here from the Daily Beast. Linda McMahon got body slammed over bogus education degree. Oh, wait a minute. The Secretary of Education got body slammed over a bogus education degree? Well, let's check this out. So I'm going to go into this because I knew that she had a quote unquote background or a former professional stint in the education board. But let's let the article tell it so you guys also know and know in detail. All right. In 2009, the former WWE CEO was confirmed to Connecticut State Board of Education following a contentious hearing in which critics questioned her fitness for the role if she remained involved in professional wrestling's often controversial TV content. All right, nobody cares about this. Here's the juice, though. McMahon's answers to the questionnaire about her background, reportedly reviewed by Governor Jody Rell, were touched in a bid to buttress her credentials. However, several of McMahon's answers were later revealed to be lies. Among her answers was a claim that she received a bachelor's degree in education from East Carolina University in 1969, which turned out to be untrue. Her degree was in France, en français. Où est à la bibliothèque? Où est à la discothèque? Yeah, we gonna know where that's at. Anyway, en français, after the Hartford Courant, all right, contacted her about the claim in 2010, 1 year later, she resigned. The newspaper reported. Okay, Ms. McMahon tried to write off the discrepancy as a mistake, claiming that she conflated her student teaching experience with a degree in education. That, my friends, is what makes Mrs. McMahon unqualified. She found herself on the Connecticut State Board, and when I say found herself, it's the same way she's now on the controlling the federal board. She donated a bunch of her husband's money, and then she ends up on the board. Same thing happens this go around. She donates a bunch of her husband's money to the Trump administration's campaign, and voila, do you like that? En français, and voila, she's a Secretary of Education. Although she had only a 12-month stint, if an entire 12-month stint, at being the state of Connecticut's Secretary of Education, because she lied, because she wasn't qualified. because she knew she wasn't qualified. So she buttressed her resume and then wrote it off as, oh yeah, I thought when I was student teaching, I got a degree in education. That's what I thought. So fast forward to now, and Miss AI is still unqualified, and now she runs the entire country as far as education is concerned. Awesome. So that brings me to number 2. Okay. Not only did this cabinet and has this cabinet demonstrated one thing about DEI, which was that having the best people and the most qualified people was utter BS. This cabinet has also demonstrated at the same time the reasons why those efforts, when I say those efforts, I mean DEI and affirmative action, were in place to begin with, to combat the exact thing you see in this Trump administration. Not only is it not the best people, but these people got these positions based on nothing but loyalty and cronyism to Donald J. Trump. Nothing to do with qualifications. We have a man sitting at the Department of Defense, the head of it, Mr. Pete Hegseth. Unqualified. This guy has been a part-time host / anchor on Fox, a part-time military man with the National Guard, unless I'm missing some active duty activity prior to going into the National Guard, he may. As far as I know, it's just National Guard. So part-time Fox host, part-time military man, part-time husband, if you believed any of the confirmation testimony about his behavior in the workplace. Okay. But the funny thing about this is we almost had an attorney general that was even less qualified. Okay. Both in the courtroom and morally speaking, with the original frat man, grown man as a frat boy, Matt Gaetz, until he pulled himself out of the running. So let's think about that. Matt Gaetz was almost our attorney general. We have Pete Hegseth as the Department of Defense secretary, who's part-time on everything, no extensive military background. Besides, he made it to major in the National Guard, which you can do in your sleep. How do I know? I was in the National Guard, tanker. M1A1 Abrams. So tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. Pete Hegseth literally is what Vivek was talking about when he got into that spat about not being qualified. He said in the States, because he grew up here, that what do? We praise the jock and the homecoming queen, and we don't care about the math wizard, the debate person. And what did he say? What did he use as an example? Saved by the Bell. He was like, we glorify the Zach Morrises. Guess what? Pete Hegseth is Zach Morris. Pete Hegseth has done nothing to make this military better except for the crowd with the sensitive eyes. The crowd that is quick to tell everyone else that they're snowflakes, that they have victim mentalities if they bring up any issues. This particular individual, for some reason, can't stand to see women and people of color actually contributing to this country. Why am I saying that? That is the only thing Pete Hegseth has done since he's been in office, is erased everyone